preach good now, so I'm going to build my church. And so then another one come by and say, well, I can preach good now, so I'm going to build my church. I mean, well, then you don't have no ministers to help the people that come. So it's not how long you've been under a pastor that determines when you're supposed to pastor. You're supposed to pastor right now. Those that are here, and I'm calling that as a mentor or whatever. And that's why you have elders. Sometimes I call you pastors, and sometimes I say elders, and this almost interchangeably, but you know what I'm saying? But that's what you are. You are pastoring. What does pastor mean? What does the word mean?
Teacher.
He has to be a teacher, or she has to be a teacher, but what else?
That cares for
a feeder. You feed the flock. It's a shepherd that feeds the flock. Yeah. So I can't feed everybody that comes in here. Even though we only have, 125 on our roll, so we say. 125, 30, whatever it is on the road. I don't care if it's 25. I may not have the message for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why God sends us elders to give messages for, my message may hit him tonight, and his message may hit her tomorrow night, and her message may, that's the way it is. And that's why we try to make provision for everybody to speak at some time during the month or the year to speak, because God gives you something to give to people. That's why you're a minister.
How do you know you're called?
How do you know you're called?
If you're called to preach.
You know you're called because you preach. How do you know you're a piano player?
Because you know how to play the piano. You have a gift to play. You can play.
Yeah. Some can play good and some can play a little bit like me. But that's how you know you can play, because you play. You know you can preach because you preach. And you have the urge and the anointing. Of course, some people don't get anointed for a long time after they get started. But you have not only the urge, but the inclination, the desire, and when you get up, you have something to say. Excuse me. I've said many times, I've seen people, I have seen this. Somebody called them to preach, call them to speak. Now they say they're an ordained preacher. And they say, well, I didn't know I was going to preach tonight, so I don't have nothing. Well, then you're not ready. If you don't have nothing to say, you're not ready.
One of the elders asked me, was I called to preach in this church? And I told him, I don't know. I didn't say I don't know, I said no.
Yeah.
I missed that call.
Yeah, no, you're not yet. You're not called. Not yet. I don't know. You may be. But, I mean, later. But you're not called right now. But here's the thing. You're going to have, in other words, if you cannot stop doing it, how can I say that? In other words, if you are a preacher, you cannot not preach. That's a double negative. But you know what I'm saying? I used to get up in testimony meeting when we were back east, not since after I got my license and all that and got ordained, but I used to get up in testimony service, and I would invariably be preaching a sermon. I mean, trying to testify. And so, Bishop told me, said, look, you need to testify more often because you testify too much. Oh, Lord. But I would get anointed. and testify. So I realized that anointing, and then when I was in Bible college, of course, I went to Bible college. I didn't go to Bible college to be a pastor or to preach. I went to Bible college so I could teach in another Bible college. That was my desire, to be a teacher in a Bible college. But when we started taking homiletics and the various subjects, well, you know, you have to practice with what you're being taught. And so I would get messages. The Lord would give me messages. And I'd give them to one of the bishops. I say, Bishop, this is a message I got. Preach it, you know. I wouldn't be telling him. I'd ask him, I said, would you preach that? You know. And he preached it. But my point is, finally he said to me, why do you think God has given you these messages? And so I said, it's like that, you know how it is. No. But I realized after a while that I was supposed, and then people that started asking me to speak. I said, I'm not a preacher, you know. They said, would you speak? Yeah, I'll speak. So I started speaking, and I just ended up preaching. So I recognized the gift. It was there. Yeah.
How old were you when you said?
19.
Oh. 19.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
That's good.
Yeah, 19. And so, but here's the thing. If you cannot preach and be happy, then you're not a preacher. If you can never, ever, ever preach, if you could never, ever get up before somebody and have set forth what God has given to you to say, and you can be just as happy as a lark and never say a word. Now, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I could be happy maybe and not being a pastor, but God hasn't told me to give it up. So I know I couldn't be. I can't, in other words, what you can't give up, you know that's what you are. You know, it's even little, the little bit I can play a piano, every once in a while I like to get on there and bang. Yeah. So why? Because I can. But, so what I'm getting at is, if what is in you, you cannot do it and be content not doing it, then it must not be your calling. So if you feel like I could never preach another sermon and I'd be just as happy as a lark, then you must not be called. If that's the way you feel, that you could not preach another sermon or never give another lesson, then maybe you're not a minister. But if there's something in you that you get something and you want to give it out, something, and I know that this brother, I'll tell you, he get up, he like me used to do. He get up to testify and he done preached already. Elder, Elder Walden is more like me in the other way. He'd get up to speak, and he's taught. Because that's what I am. I'm a teacher more than I am a preacher. But the thing is, he could not be satisfied never saying nothing. I mean, it's in him. It's in him. Yeah, you got to get it out. And so that's why, that's for everybody. If you have see, God puts that desire in you. Whatever it is that you can do well. You know, there are people that can cook well, and they're not satisfied if they're not cooking. If they're not baking something. Every once in a while, you know, I get a hankering. For I've been about a year now. I haven't been cooking. Every once in a while, I get a kind of hankering.